The Steam Deck is probably the best Wii emulation device you can get right now, aside from more expensive handhelds, although you're missing out on a lot of the niceties of the Steam Deck when you go elsewhere. But anyway, I'm going to just show off my controller configuration for Mario Galaxy here, and then I have a bunch of other ones that I can share as well. I'll probably preview those, but for now we're just going to show Galaxy. Load it up, make sure we're good. So I'm going to go into, first off, just looking at how the A button works, because if you right-click a controller setting like that, you get this advanced dialog where you can really go into specifics on how you want this input to function. So what it's doing right now is obviously A is A. I also have it set so axis 5 plus, or right trigger, is A. So both those register as the A button. I also have it, if the screen is tapped, for whatever that means. It's been a while since I made this, but it makes it so when the screen is double tapped, it registers an A press for that amount of time, I believe. And that's useful to make it so the touchscreen is actually usable for menus. Otherwise, it would just be dragging the cursor around. So that's just an example of what the A button does. If I go into motion simulation, you can see I actually don't have the Steam Deck's motion inputs mapped to the Wii Remote. I have them simulated, and that's because the cursor is very finicky in lots and lots of games. If it doesn't register with the accelerometers that you're pointing it in the right direction towards the screen, it's not even going to bother trying to show you the cursor. So the way we fix that is we simulate the motion in motion simulation menu here. And what we have set up is if you hold the L1 button, you can move the cursor around. If you let go, it disappears and recenters. Pretty useful. We also have it set up so the Steam Deck's gyro will influence where the cursor goes. And that makes it very useful for when you're playing like Mario Galaxy and you need to collect bits. You don't really have to pay attention. But also the touchscreen is calibrated to show the cursor where you're dragging it, which is also really, really useful. And it disappears when you let go. So with all this in conjunction, you have a really, really useful setup for Galaxy. We also have a setup where you hold up on the D-pad, and you have motion controls for holding an upright Wiimote. If I go into the main options here, you see down there, when up is held, it activates holding the Wiimote in an upright position. But if you hold down, it still controls the motion, but it's as if you're holding the Wiimote in a flat position. So that's useful for the racing games. So for Donkey Kong Country Returns, you can see it's mapped a lot different. When I go to motion input, we actually do have the Steam Deck's accelerometer map there for the shake detection. And we also have that for the, there we go, the nunchuck. And then motion simulation. We have no cursor control because there's really no cursor interaction in Donkey Kong Country Returns. So no reason to map it. So there you go. Okay, so here we are in New Super Mario Brothers, and you can see that the triggers are mapped for that. We've got motion on the bumpers, and then if I go to motion input over here, you can see that this is configured to control this with this, but as well as the motion simulation setup. So it's pretty flexible. You can do a lot of things at once, and it works pretty well. One last thing I wanted to show off here is if you go to a game's settings by right-clicking and going to properties, if you go to the editor, you can actually fine-tune what a game's going to load for a controller configuration. So you see Mario Galaxy here. I've set a text file, so I have it labeled Mario Galaxy, so if I'm just opening the text files manually, I know what I'm looking at. But I also have descriptions of what's going on, the video settings, and all that stuff. This is the controller config, though. One other little catch is I have found that the motion inputs don't really work outside of game mode, so make sure you're in game mode when you're trying to use this. But as you can see, I got a little texture pack loaded I found on the internet. I don't remember where. It's been about a year. But so we're going to put this into practice. We're using gyro to navigate. We're using the touchscreen to navigate. And we're using the right stick to navigate here. Got it set up so X is motion. So it's basically a jiggle of the Wii Remote. But you can also just shake the Steam Deck. Okay, now we're going to show off the rolling ball, probably the worst thing to emulate in Mario Galaxy just because it's always so awkward. So the way I have this set up is really meticulous. I found that if you just set it to an upright Wii Remote position, it kind of tilts forward by default, so I had to clamp the actual input for up only. So we're going to try that out. By holding up on the D-pad, it puts the Wii Remote in an upright position and maps the right analog stick to the motion controls. So I just want to make sure you can see all that. And when I let go, Mario generally here, he stops moving. But it still works, so. I'm not very good at these levels, even with the advantage of an analog stick, so. Oh. And don't forget you've got the trigger for jump. Otherwise you'd be having some trouble. But yeah, it's working fine. Oopsie. Okay, so first off, we do have motion controls. We also map those to the bumpers. Obviously, you can see the triggers control this, but we also have control on the Steam Deck as well. So there's little things like this that you can really optimize to make it so the Steam Deck is more creative to play with, kind of like a real Wii. And I like that. I like that it's more one-to-one to a real Wii experience. This is a relatively new Dolphin installation, so there might be some lag when it comes to shader compilation. No, we don't want the beach. We want the jungle. Okay, and since this is a different style of game than Mario Galaxy, we can actually map the motion controls for the Wii Remote and the nunchuck, so we can shake it to do shit like that. Of course, you still have a button to do that, because you kind of need a button to roll in Donkey Kong Country, no matter who you are. But it does work if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not really, so I tend to ignore it, but it works, so that's cool. And if you're looking for a hard mode to make yourself, you certainly have it. That's going to be it. You should be playing Wii games on your Steam Deck. That's it.